Hello everybody and welcome back to the second shelf. And if you follow my channel for a while, you know what this means. BookHaul blouse. Yes, BookHaul. I bought books in November. Surprise! But before we get into the books that I bought, another public service announcement for the Booktube Prize. You all know that I'm a big fan of the Booktube Prize and I judge the Booktube Prize, the prize organized by Robert from Haus. And the 2022 prize will start in a month or so. And so far we have two categories. We started with fiction all the way back like 3 years, and now we have fiction and nonfiction. And in 2022, we want to add a third category, translated fiction. But that also means we need more judges because, especially in the beginning, when you have, a big pool, many groups, we need at least a couple of judges for each group. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. So if you are thinking about, oh, that's a good idea, please sign up. All the information is in the description box. You don't have to commit to the every round, but especially in the beginning, it would be fantastic if you could judge. So that means sometime in the spring, and then you would commit to reading 6 books and ranking 6 books. That's not that much, is it? So if you watch this, if you are part of Booktube, and if you watch this, you are a part of Booktube and you haven't signed up yet, please consider signing up as a judge. End of public service announcement. Now we get to the book haul. The first book is a tiny little thing I bought in a used bookstore. Agatha Christie, Crooked House, first published in 1949. Now, I don't need to say anything about Agatha Christie. I will be reading this with Brian from Bookish. If you haven't, please check out his channel. He's really, really, he's such a nice booktuber, but with an edge, because sometimes he talks about politics. So I love it. And I'm sure you will too if you check him out. And this December is also always Cloak and Dagger month, the readathon organized by Mel and other people. I will leave the link to her announcement video down below. I'm not participating in the sense that I'm doing all the prompts, but I do want to read at least 1 or 2 mystery books in December, and maybe even the group read, which is a Georgette Heyer, if I'm not mistaken. But this one certainly qualifies. It's Agatha Christie. It's her favorite book. That was one of the reasons that Brian and I picked it. And it is a standalone. It's not, number 15 in the Poirot series. And there is, of course, a murder, and the murder will be solved. And that's all I need to know. I'm really looking forward to this one. And I actually quite like this edition. And the next one is also, I'm reading it also for Cloak and Dagger because it is a mystery, but it's a mystery set in space because it's sci-fi, A Memory Called Empire by Arkady Martin. And this book won the Hugo Award 2020. It was published in 2019. And I came across this book through the Booktube goddess. If you don't know her channel, really, really fantastic booktuber, but also talking about film and games, which I know nothing about, but that's also fabulous. She reads mostly sci-fi and fantasy. That's her main, and then a wide range, also middle grade YA, and she has these fixed features like Shove It or Shelve It, where she looks at new releases, just purely the cover, and then decides on 1 or 2 to read. Yeah, I just love it. Anyway, so she recommended this. She really liked it. And it's set in an empire. And you have a new ambassador, Mahit. I think you will pronounce it Mahit. Mahit. And she comes when her predecessor has been poisoned, or at least died of poison, probably not an accident, and then she starts to investigate. And it's a sprawling space opera, but it's also a mystery. And who says that for Cloak and Dagger you can't read a sci-fi mystery? Right? So I will be reading this also for my 2021 Genre Spotlight Sci-Fi. I said earlier that I would probably pick up a Becky Chambers book, and I might still do that. But this one sort of, crossed my path, and I thought it sounded interesting. So I will certainly read this in December, also for Cloak and Dagger. Next up is a new release, August 2021, that I was really looking forward to a non-fiction book, The Real Valkyrie by Nancy Marie Brown, the hidden story of Viking warrior women. A Valkyrie is kind of a mythical figure in Northern mythology who decides who dies and who lives in battle. So that's why warrior, Valkyrie. The author, Nancy Marie Brown, is a writer of nonfiction, historian, and especially interested in sagas, Icelandic sagas, Vikings, that kind of thing. This is a fictionalized biography, if you want. And the basis is real science. In 2017, there were these warrior graves, in Sweden, Viking warrior graves, and you find the skeleton with weaponry and everything, Viking warriors, all men, of course. Until in 2017, DNA of one particular very elaborate grave in Birka in Sweden, it turned out DNA that it was a woman. So maybe our patriarchal idea of how Viking society worked, and that women were, just at home cooking soup while the men went out and being warriors, might not be true. So the author takes this real science fact and then makes a fictionalized biography of this woman in the grave, because we don't know anything about her life, of course. But I love this combination of real science and saga and fictionalized biography. I like the fact, that science was just stunned by the fact that they might be prejudiced because there were weapons in the grave. So of course it had to be a man, and it wasn't. I love that. So that's the Real Valkyrie by Nancy Mary Brown. The next two books are my December, or some of my December buddy reads. I already talked about one with Brian from Bookish, but I have more buddy reads, of course. And the first one is quite a chunker, so I think we will probably need the whole month, and that is this beautiful Persephone edition of The Priory by Dorothy Whipple. And it's quite a chunker. And it was published, oh my dear God, there we go again, 1939. Dorothy Whipple was an early 20th century English author. And full disclosure, I have never read any of her work. And I thought that has to be remedied at some point. And I've had The Priory on my list forever. And then thankfully, Gina from Gina Stainer's books, which I will leave a link in the description. She has a really, really wonderful, positive energy always. When she says, "Hi, it's Gina," it just makes me feel better. So if you haven't subscribed to her, please check out her channel. And she wanted to read this as well, so we are going to buddy read it in December. It is set in a priory with a family, a widowed major with two daughters who are almost grown up. And then the father decides to marry a much younger woman, marry again, I should say, a much younger woman, and then plot ensues. That's all I know. It's really that I want to fill this gap that I feel bad about not having read any Dorothy Whipple. So if you have read The Priory or any other book by Dorothy Whipple, let me know what you think. And the third buddy read book is this one, We Jane by Amy Wall, published last year, if I'm not mistaken. I'm so well prepared today. No, in April 2021, of course, because it was a new release and it's a debut and it's a Canadian writer. And I'm reading this with Sean the Book Maniac, of course, because he is Canadian, even though he lives in Tokyo. This was nominated for the Giller Prize, and I think it made the shortlist even, but it wasn't the winner, of course. I don't know, of course, but it wasn't the winner. But Sean and I, we both wanted to read it when it was listed for the Giller, because it sounded interesting. From my point of view, it's about an intergenerational female friendship, and you don't have many books about that. Not about female friendship in general, and certainly not about intergenerational, so a younger woman and an older woman. And it's set in Newfoundland, or at least partly, and that's basically all I know. And it's not very long, so I think we will read it in 2 weeks, beginning of December. And I haven't read a novel with Sean for quite some time. We read short stories. The last 2 or 3 buddy reads were short stories. So we are going to delve into Wee Jane by Amy Wall. There are 2 more books to go, both nonfiction. Yeah, so if you hate nonfiction, bye. And the first of the 2 is by Indigenous author Rodney Bolt, Gathering Moss, first published in 2003. This is a book about moth, a natural and cultural history of mosses. And if you think mosses are boring, I mean, I had no idea about mosses, but Rodney Bolt later book, I think published 2013, Braiding Sweetgrass, made the rounds on Booktube. I haven't read that one. And a couple of my Booktube friends were really enamored with it. So I looked up the author. She's a professor of forest biology. And I saw this book and I thought, mosses. I love it. Something different. So I picked this up. It's also one of the shorter books to read. And it's on my buddy reading list with Heidi from my reading life. So I don't think we will be able to get to this this year, but you never know. And the last one is a little bit different than the book I was originally planning to buy, and now everybody is thinking, what the hell is she talking about? This book is about Edna Lewis, the famous chef. Let's back up and let's try to make a whole sentence. Each year I'm doing the Reading Women Challenge. You all know the Reading Women podcast, started by Kendra Winchester, and each year they have a challenge of 24 prompts for reading more women. And I always do this challenge. And the only prompt left for the 2021 challenge is read a cookbook by a woman of color. And in a previous video, when I talked about my reading plans for 2021, I featured a book by Edna Lewis, a cookbook. And then I saw this one, and this is more of a combination of a memoir, biography, cookbook, and I thought that's more my thing. As you know, I'm not a cook. So I bought this one to finish and complete the challenge, the Reading Woman Challenge 2021. And this book is edited by, what's her name, Sarah B. Franklin. And it was released in 2018, and it has recipes. But isn't this a wonderful picture of Edna Lewis? I love it. Anyway, so these were the 7 books that I bought recently. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. As always, I'm looking forward to your comments, and I'll see you all soon in the next one.